There we go. We're recording. Kat, welcome to the podcast.
So good to be here.
I'm genuinely curious today because if I'm completely honest, I don't know much about you, but I really wanted to follow up from speaking to Jeff a few weeks ago with what you guys are doing because I just think it's brilliant, and connecting with Jeff and learning more about you, I was like, wow, I got to get Kat on the podcast. So I'm really excited to see where this conversation goes today.
Me too.
I ask everyone on the show, if you sat next to a complete stranger at a dinner party or in a cocktail bar and they ask you what you did for a living, what would you say?
Well, this is going to be revealing because I am very transparent no matter what the setting. So I think I would say that I listen. I listen to myself and I follow. And so that more and more I'm moving from the preciousness of this life and the joy that feels possible.
Wow. I got to be honest, I've asked hundreds of people that question, and that's probably one of the best answers I've heard. Seriously. I listen.
I feel like I almost started crying a bit just because I'm feeling just incredibly grateful that I get to make art and I get to create things with people that I love, that I care about. And I feel like more and more I'm not hiding any part of myself from my family or from my friends.
Yeah, beautiful. I got sparked two questions already, but the first one is, I think from my journey and it working with others and seeing that listening, that inner knowing, that connection to self can be terrifying. And so quite often we don't listen to it because it then leads us into an unknown, which of course is even more terrifying. Did you always listen? And I'll just stay with that one question. Yeah.
No. So I think my biggest commitment to listening to my heart and myself over ideas of what I should be doing was about 13 years ago. I took a 6-month sabbatical from the work that I was doing, and I said, I'm going to travel for 6 months. I'm just going to listen to my heart. Like if I want to stay somewhere, like I don't have to have a mental reason for anything, right? It's just literally a 6-month practice in listening. And I mean, the humor is not lost on me that as soon as I made that decision, one of my a friend of 20 years said, look, I've loved you for ages. Can we talk about it? Yeah, so within a month, I got engaged, even like while I was in Cambodia. So it's just, I think that was the beginning of this opening to the listening, and then just opening to the unknown, right?
Yeah.
Like what happens when we make space? We don't know.
Exactly. And I'm intrigued as well about your backgrounds, because listening to Jeff speak the other week, like, he was very in the mind, very left-sided brain thinking. And, he said he studied quantum mechanics, trying to figure it all out before he realized that all he had to do was probably listen as opposed to solve things. Did you find yourself in that category too? Because overthinking, because a lot of people struggle with the mind and just trying to detach from that at any aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely leaned on my mind heavily. And it was partly kind of the combination of wanting to win my father's love, and that seemed like a good route. And so I went to MIT for undergrad, I did my PhD there. And I think there were two moments. There was one moment when I finished my PhD, I was like, oh, that's it. And then there was another moment when I had been doing a job where my starting salary was more than my father had ever made in his life. And I was traveling all around the world. And so similar to Jeff's story, by outward standards, this is, kind of a glorious existence for somebody in their mid-20s. And there were two things there. I think I looked at the adults, the older people around me, and I said, I don't want any of these people's lives. And I think that was when it fully clicked for me that there was no amount of money or achievement, any kind of outward movement that would give a sense of contentment.
Yeah, right. I'm fascinated as well because in your bio you talk about a physical breakdown at 37. I'd love you to speak to that. And that was that because you also mentioned you were a pole vaulter, and I was intrigued. Was it from pushing yourself through athletics too hard, or was it from pushing yourself mentally or too hard? What happened with the whole thing?
So, yeah, I think pole vaulting in college actually helped me stay balanced with the mind, because when I was training, I was entirely with my body. And so that actually created some balance. It was not until after I'd had my second child, when I was 37, and as you maybe have experienced as a young parent, everyone in the family got sick. We all had this horrible virus, and everyone recovered, and then I didn't. And I was just on the couch, and I realized like something's really wrong.
Wow.
And I started kind of contacting doctors, and it wasn't clear. I knew that my immune system was weakened. My thyroid, over time as tests, I found out my thyroid wasn't working. My adrenal system was shot, and my gut. And so all these systems were kind of shut down. I even had, there were people who came to my bed and did energetic work or kind of body work. And they're just like, nothing's moving. Like no energy is moving. And it was funny when you asked if we might talk about this, it's still tender, because all the things that I thought I was, I thought I was a mother who could care for her kids. I thought I was an athlete. I thought I was somebody who could think clearly. Like all those got just stripped away. I didn't have energy to be with my children. I'd have to hide in a room just laying all day.
Wow.
And my husband just had to take over everything. And it was just heartbreaking and ego breaking to not be able to help at all, to need so much help from my community, my parents, my family. And I think the shattering part was, and yet I'm still here. Like all these ideas of what I thought I was and what I thought earned love. There's some consciously there was sort of like, well, I have to do these things so that I am kind of reciprocating. And yet here I was, like just laying. People are bringing me food. And it was months, right? And completely not knowing, like, is this going to be life? Is this what life is going to be like? And I remember a talk with my husband at 6 months, and we were just heartbroken and crying, and yet still choosing this. Like here we are. What turned it? I think the to your question, the reason that this physical breakdown happened is it was the price I paid for having repressed emotions from my childhood. There was anger that was not processed. And it's my belief and my experience that if if there's content that's unprocessed, eventually the body will pay the toll for it. And it was only through the full honoring of my, like, this is what I want, this is what I need, with no attempt to take care of anybody, that began to recover.
Wow, that's massive. Massive. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating because I had the pleasure of having Gabor Mate on the show about a year ago. It's just an incredible, beautiful human being. And I was only talking to Matt, my business partner, yesterday, who I run the retreats with, and he was listening to Gabor because he was saying that it's scientifically proven now that we can't separate the emotions and the body, as in the way the Western medical system works. We just address the body. We just physical, 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 physical. And yet it is proven that we actually need to support all the other aspects, which I believe is emotional, mental, and spiritual, and address all layers. And we just go to the one aspect, which is mind blowing. What was the catalyst for you then? Because I'm guessing, and I don't want to impose my beliefs on you, but that at first you didn't realize that your body was holding the trauma from childhood, and then it would start to reveal itself. Or
It was interesting. And this is where sort of the spiritual knowing just kind of was there. Even while there was a huge part of me that was saying, like, I cannot handle this, I am not wanting this version of reality, there was also a part of me that said, this is actually what needs to happen. Like, for me to move, like, and part of it is from my vision now. At the time, it was just a seed of, there's some movement that's wanting to happen that I wouldn't do of my own free will, but that will happen through this. And it was this not knowing. And the way I hold it now is like my physical vessel almost just had to break, it had to crack for my system to realign more clearly around who I am and what I want, to show up.
wow. Was there a definitive moment when you started to really feel that release from your body, or was there a particular practice that you started doing that helped you through to gain momentum coming out to the other side?
I mean, where it started is just this acceptance.
Huh.
This is where I'm, right? And that was at the very bottom, right? Like, I am just laying here all day. My mom is bringing me fried kale, and I can see this tree, and this is my day. And there's still joy in it, right? So much not what I expected, and here I am. And so I think from that, the seed of acceptance, can I fully accept myself in this way? From that sprouted the practices of asking more and more for, this is what I want, this is what I need, and trusting through and through that those are all good, that all the sources of my wants and my needs are good, that I am good and worthy of the things that I want.
Yeah, it's the greatest challenge, isn't it? Acceptance. As whatever we resist persists, and until we fully let go. I had Brandon Bays on. Are you familiar with Brandon Bays at all?
I'm not.
Yeah, she's an incredible human being, and I had her on the podcast last week. And just to relate to this, because in the '90s she was the health coach for Tony Robbins, so she would travel with Tony and she would speak on stage, and and she had every qualification under the sun in the alternative, I guess, world at the time. She said, and there she was, diagnosed with cancer at 39 years old, and it wasn't until she actually fully surrendered and let her ego get smashed to bits through everything, that she was able to then start the journey to heal, which is quite remarkable. And I often think about that on a daily basis with what we are doing. And when you look at what's going on in society right now, it's quite scary at the end of the day. When did you meet Jeff, and when did this whole project start to come about with Sleep Awake from your end?
Well, I believe that I remember the moment that I met Jeff. Some of our memories are align and don't align, but it was 2000, and I was arriving as a freshman at MIT, and he was playing guitar in the kind of dorm that I was staying at. So that's when we met for the first time. But our friendship has had a lot of stages in the last 22 years. And last August, Jeff gave a presentation to a couple of our friends because we'd been talking about communal living and experiments in rites of passage, and we'd been doing kind of group experiments around relational healing. And he gave this presentation. He said, "Hey, I want to do this summer camp, but I can't do it alone. I'm gonna need help." And this is the point which I said, "I've got way too much going on. Good luck with that." and and it was funny. I sat there with that for 3 weeks, and I was speaking with a friend about it, and I was feeling his excitement, and then I felt this thought of, oh, I think I want to lead it. Like, I want to lead it with him. And it was one of those, and this is where the body, this practice of listening, where my body just powered up. Like I can still remember this feeling, like coming up through my gut and like up. And then it was then like little fireworks. I was like, oh, for this reason and this reason and this reason. And like just feeling the resources all kind of gather in support. And so I left Jeff some kind of video message being like, found out I want to lead this with you. There it is.
Wow. To digress slightly on the listening aspect, if you were to describe to someone, how do you listen? Because it's such a foreign concept to so many people, and yet here you are going, I know this is right, I'm going to do it, I'm changing my trajectory, and I'm diving in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, partly it's, we have access to this vast set of signals, right? We've got the signals about our thoughts, we've got all the signals, our somatic signals, and then all of the signals about what's around us and relational signals. And I feel like for me, it's staying attuned to the somatic signals and really trusting that they all have intelligence, and being open to what they have to say. Yeah, I mean, I think I put myself in a place of receiving, so that if I want to listen, I'm kind of opening up, not trying to like force an answer, but just kind of opening up and being curious about what wants to be known about this right now. And sometimes that other thing, just arises, and it's the willingness to listen, and accept even though that might be an inconvenient thing or inconvenient seeming at the time.
Totally, because quite often we have so many distractions in our life, or if we're unaware and we're keeping ourselves externally, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to listen in the first place. And it can feel so foreign to so many people if they've not done that.
Yeah.
Do you, because it was in your Living the DNA of the Sleep Awake camp, it was in one of the notes you sent me, which kind of leans into this. And what is living your DNA? Do you have certain practices, or do you find you just embody it moment to moment, or what? Talk to me about that.
My daily practices.
Both, yeah. So that
sort of the sleep awake culture.
I guess both. I'm assuming there's going to be crossover here as well.
Well, I think with the sleep awake culture, I think with Jeff, what I think is extraordinary about what we're creating is we're creating a container of unconditional love, of acceptance and non-judgment. But that's easier said than done. And so what do we do in practice that upholds that there's no part of us that is not worthy of being attended to? And so, like, an example, I mean, on a kind of categories level, we are bringing the things that are uncomfortable, the difficult emotions, and the projections of each other that arise, trusting that those will support kind of the intelligence and movement. Anything that arises that would get in the way of our connection is worth bringing. So like yesterday we were working on a waiver for camp, or I'm responsible for it. And so we have a game right now where sometimes, because of my past critical voice, I'll feel inferior. Like if I'm having a hard time, my critical voice will say that I feel inferior than this person. It'll be a kind of comparison feeling. And so now when it comes up, I tell Jeff, I say, I'm feeling inferior. And Jeff will be like, oh, why is that? What are you feeling inferior about? And I'll say, I really, like, I'm hating that I had to ask you for help in getting started on this waiver. Like, I feel like I should be able to do it all by myself. And he's like, oh, like, how many times have you made a waiver? Like, never. He's like, all right, like, that's a heavy load, And so then I can feel the harshness of that voice, and it's shared with him. And then I get what I need. I get the help in getting started on the waiver, and I feel accepted and loved, and like we get to be, I'm not creating separation by that false idea.
Perfect. Why is it so challenging for us as human beings to even do what you just did in relationships? And what do you think are the consequences from not doing it? Those two things.
Well, I mean, I think the first reason is it's vulnerable, right? Like the whole reason I can tell it's something that would probably be good to share is because there's a tightening that happens. Like I have this thought and I can feel, it depends on what it is, but I might feel tightening in my gut or my heart area. And I mean, it feels like a very animal instinct, right? Like that if we open and expose something that we relate to, maybe something that we've been criticized for in the past, or that we have some memory of having a negative experience around, then it's going to be less likely that we'll want to just like offer that up. And so I do think it's through trust, trying little experiments. And I'll get back to that in a moment because I want to finish the other side of your question. I think if we don't share them, we're more likely to believe they're true. We're more likely to, if there's a thought of I'm inferior or I'm not as good at that as that person, and then I don't share it, it's more likely that I'm going to think that's true. And I've just gathered evidence. Oh, I couldn't start the waiver on my own. See? And, we're data collecting machines in the background, and, we can prove a point really well, especially if it's not kind of fully in the consciousness. And so I think the impact is, it's heartbreaking because it's reinforcing a lot of limiting beliefs about who we are that kind of can suffocate and hurt us and keep us separated from other people and keep us separated from our own gifts.
Yeah. And then the consequences obviously would be they just compound over time until there's a tipping point.
Right. And I don't want to have gone through paying the physical price in this lifetime without doing what I can to support others in, releasing these ideas about themselves early on so they don't have to pay through the physical body.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving into the Sleep Awake camp then, which is coming up in July. Is it June, July?
Yeah, so it'll be July 24th to August 22nd.
Yeah, which is going to be here before you know it. What is your I guess I don't want to use the word hope. What is your vision for this and for the outcome and the impact and the ripple effect it will have moving forward for the people that attend? Because it'll be 18 to 24-year-olds, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that?
Yeah, hopefully 16, 18 to 24-year-olds. And there will be somewhere between 6 and 8 facilitators, all specializing in a different area that is being covered. And then my children will be there, my boys, 5 and 8, and my partner. So we will have, it's a full-on community. And there's also some of the people who work at this is a spiritually rooted retreat center that was founded a couple decades ago on the Big Island of Hawaii, which I visited and was very moved by just the abundance of the nature and the fruit trees. And even that, just having that support of being in nature every day and being close to the ground and the food that we're eating is very encouraging for the time that we're there. But I wanted to, in terms of my hope, I think my hope is that for everyone who comes to this retreat, that there's a softening allowed inside of them, a softening around, who they think they should be, that allows just the joy of being, joy of them being themselves to emerge and feel fully welcome, because an experience of everyone in a community all moving towards aliveness. And just to ground what I just said a bit, I was having an interview recently with somebody who's going to come, and as part of the interview, we play a game, and it's different depending on who comes. But this was a game called Let's Get Real, and it's a game that Jeff made up, and you can only speak something that is, a true impulse, but causes a contraction. So it's something that your stomach tightens at the thought of saying it. And what happens in this game typically is that as people share it just permissions back and forth. Like, oh, it's so like I said that and I was fine. And then the other person's like, oh, I want to say this. Like, I want to share now. And the woman that I was interviewing, she just said, like, I don't speak with any adults like
Hmm.
this. I never speak like this in an interview. And you just this kind of pointing to how many implicit rules there are about how we engage with each other, and how many of those do we actually need, how many of those actually serve us.
Wow. At 18, I didn't have a clue. I can tell you that much. Not that I have a clue now. I still just listen and trust that more than anything else. You you have children, and how many children do you have, Kat?
2 boys, one is 5 and one is
One
8.
is 5 and one is 8. Wow. When it comes to parenting, then from how do you? And this is, and I'm intrigued here now selfishly because I have Ava who's 22 months, or nearly 23 months. Gosh, she'll be 2. Amazing. Um, and I'm so caught, like I just like, oh my God, am I absolutely screwing this up, or am I'm doing the best I can and holding space for her and all the rest of it. I mean, with what you've been through, what you've learned, and what you're doing with 16 to 24-year-olds or whatever it might be with Sleep Awake, eh, how do you raise your children? Like, are there any like footnotes you could share, or that have helped you to help other parents listening to this that might be in the same bracket? Because it's it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, so that speaks to what you're pointing to. Is so I have a teacher um, who I follow and respect tremendously around collective trauma. His name is Thomas Hubel. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has beautiful teachings around collective trauma and healing collective trauma. And one of the things he says is when we have kids, the the child plays us like a keyboard. And then if there's any key that's out of tune, that's not integrated, they will play that key over and over again. And I think what he's pointing to is when we get triggered by our children, because it's a when, not an if, um, um, we have a choice. I have a choice. I can choose to try to limit my child's expression to the point that it no longer causes discomfort in me, or I can find out, why is this uncomfortable for me? And through that process of investigation, hopefully there's a falling in love with some part of myself that then allows me to love that part of myself and love that part of my child. Um, and so in that way, our children are another, I think from a spiritual
Mm,
standpoint, they're another engine for our awakening, right? Because if we choose to accept, every time they point to a trigger, um, oh, thank
wow.
you.
So they become our biggest teachers.
Yeah, but I think the flip side of this as a parent and selfishly is I only have my instrument, right? Like I am only this lens on the
Hmm.
universe. And so, offering these 18 to 24-year-olds coming to camp, and also my kids who will be at camp, exposure to a lot of other adults who are doing beautiful work in their lives, it allows them to imprint other nervous systems than my nervous system that has a certain set of reactivity, and other people will have a different set of experience, um, and different set of reactivity. And so I feel like by having these kinds of interactions with more people, you get to feel imprint on more nervous systems. You feel more option for how you can exist, right? So if you only have, I mean, typically our parents are our primary imprints, but if we get more, then it opens up the options for what our beliefs can be, what life lessons they might learn from. Well, what is a problem? What's not a problem? Because different systems have different definitions of those. And so I feel like that's one of the incredible gifts of, the term, it takes a village to raise a child. It's not two adults working really, really hard to raise a child.
That's what it genuinely feels like for me at the moment. I tell you, God, yeah. But I hear you.
So, I mean, selfishly for me, it's a movement into, also a personal experimental space. What is it like for me to be in a facilitative role in support of the well-being and thriving of these 18 to 24-year-olds while being a mother, while being a partner? And so that's one of the catalysts for my own growth is, how do I let in all those parts, all those relationships, and live in them simultaneously and find, okay, like what's going to be uncomfortable around this, and that'll be there's going to be no dearth of teachings for me this summer.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I just before the lockdowns here in Australia, my mum, she was 76 at the time, come to our 3-night, 4-day retreat. And I was the facilitator. And my mum was there amongst 34 other people. And, my dad had passed. It's been 10 years now, but there was still healing to be there for myself and my mum. But I can so relate to everything you just said, because I was the facilitator, the son, but at the same time holding space for everyone. And it was one of the most special moments of my life, to be honest with you, because to get to do that. But there was times when I just wanted to be the son and rush over and pick her up off the floor and help her, because she struggled to get up. But then I had to leave her, and the other people, the community, the people that were there were then interacting and dynamic. And then she was kind of like, I'd end up just seeing her in bits and bobs here and there, because she was having a whale of a time with other people that actually cared, even though she was so scared coming beforehand. It just opened up in such magical ways that I can't express my gratitude enough for it. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm hearing that, even in the desire for the son to like help lift the mother up, a particular kind of role that you have, a relationship that you have with your mother and caring, and the invitation to like the flexibility of allowing the group to also hold your mother, and what the tenderness and kind of expanding in that way of like, okay, does that feel safe?
Exactly. And it was huge, and it was so fantastic, which leads me on to the last bit I did want to bring up about, because you got one of your footnotes you sent me was filling the gap, group relational practices. Is that what you were referring to? Or
in a way, yeah. So I'll just expand on it a little bit, and I'll start with, so myself and many of the people maybe who listen to this podcast maybe have meditation practices, maybe have exposure to silent meditation retreats, and they've always been a great love of mine. And a funny story is, when I was a child, I used to fantasize about going to jail without doing anything wrong, and because this seemed like really wonderful. And when I went to my first retreat in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I first like laid on a mat in a tiny room and was practicing, 10 hours a day, I was like, oh, this is what I wanted. Like, it wasn't to go to jail, but I wanted to practice in solitude. And that's, at 28, that's how I discovered silent meditation retreat. And I sat for 6 weeks when I was pregnant with my first child during the second trimester.
Wow.
So my beautiful generosity, my partner, and I didn't speak for
Wow.
6 weeks during my first pregnancy. And I sat and gave metta to my growing fetus. And, that was incredible. And yet, so despite my incredible love and devotion to silent practice, where we get to break down our breath, we get to break down our movement, we get to understand the nature of thoughts more clearly. And yet, what a jump to then go out and figure stuff out in our relationships where stuff is actually on the line. Like it's like the Wild West, right? And so the gap that exists and that I feel like Sleep Awake Camp addresses in part is, what does it mean to set up a practice container around relationships? What does it mean to be able to investigate? Oh, I hold a projection that I'm not going to like the people in this group, or I hold a projection that the people in the group will not like me, or I have a projection that if I am strong about an opinion, I will be rejected by the group, right? There's all these ideas that people have. And that's not, some of them may get sorted out in a private, in a silent retreat, and some of them may get sorted out in one-on-one therapy, but many of them won't. Many of these relational beliefs are actually going to get healed most effectively in a relational practice group, where you can actually, okay, I'm going to experiment with being, more in my power, more grounded, and see what happens. Or experiment with being more feminine, experiment with bringing out more of my sexuality, and then check in. Well, how did that work? And through that, the nervous system gets to try things and be like, oh, that was safe. Turns out that was okay. Anyway, so what I'm pointing to is there's a gap that is really not being met right now, which is, how do we break down dynamics of relation and learn to reprogram some of the beliefs and limitations that we bring to our interactions with others?
That makes so much sense. It's a crime that we're not taught this as part of the curriculum. It's as simple as that. Like, it's so important, isn't it? It's pretty much, yeah, incredible. I think the way you've explained that is perfect, because even when we hold retreats, we lean on the community, like it's the group, everyone in there. And I always say it's like creating a symphony, what we find within that retreat, and everyone has brought in a particular note, and the note might be a little bit out of tune, but as we retune it and bring it up, there's no accident of whoever's in that room, and the symphony is created from that, if we surrender into it and leverage the power of the group dynamic, which is so incredible.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think it reflects my deepest wish for the camp, which is both that we offer all of these pieces that feel so essential to our thriving, connected happiness as humans, and honor completely just the mystery of what the combination of these beings will bring forth, and be really responsive in allowing that to unfold, because that's much more beautiful than anything that we could plan
Absolutely.
ahead of
Are you still taking on applicants, just for people listening and right now?
We are kind of working our way towards
Yeah.
filling up and building this cohort, but we are very much welcoming applications.
Beautiful. And what's the vision long term? Obviously, you're going to see how this goes, but then are you going to be running them once a year, twice a year? What do you think?
So for sure, this year, this is our best guess, and we are going to see what happens and do all the learning from it. In the long run, I hope that it happens every summer. I also hope that we find models that either plug in to universities or other containers that might be interested in what happens to a collective community if some percentage of the population have done this kind of work. And I think there are different kinds of populations, and we're kind of excited to see who is drawn into conversation with us, who might be interested in, doing similar projects for various populations, because it's a great learning, but one that's desperately needed.
Yeah, definitely desperately needed. That's for sure. I got one question for you before we wrap things up, Kat, and that is, with everything we've covered today, what would you like to leave our listeners to ponder on?
I think the one thing might be, what is the idea that you have about yourself where you feel tightness around it that you could soften?
Perfect. Kat, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'll ensure maybe just say out the URL out loud anyway for anyone driving, but the links will be in the show notes for everyone, whether it be YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and so forth.
Awesome. It's sleepawake.camp.
Sleepawake.camp. Beautiful. Thank you, Kat. Amazing stuff. And I wish you all the best in Hawaii when it'll be here before you know it. And I have no doubt it's going to be absolutely incredible. You're welcome.
Thank you.